Neuron, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
Excited to see all the stuff that people have been working on.
Yeah, should be awesome. And everyone, if you need to make sure that you're on the desktop app so that you can share your screen if you have some slides. If you don't have that, go do that really fast. Zach, my man, Sleepy
Hey,
Dragon,
how's it going? How's everybody
Ross,
doing?
what's up? So great.
Hey, I'm John. Ready to kick things off.
Yeah.
If we do max out users on the video room, the live feed will be the overflow,
Okay,
and
cool.
we can.
Where did you put the live feed link, sir?
Still whipping that up.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Hang tight while we whip these links up.
The automated thing didn't catch the emojis right, so I'm stubbornly fixing the title of the video before I share it. Where did it go, though? Bam. Okay. What chat do you want me to put this in? General?
General discussion, yeah.
Hey guys, I see plenty of usual suspects, plenty of friendly faces.
It's always good. Friendly faces are good.
Okay, thumbs up on production side.
Okay, gonna go check that link right now. And yeah, so just so people know, I'm gonna go down the list of projects that submitted their project to be a part of Demo Day. If you're not on the list, DM me and we'll chat. Some of the projects were not eligible because they were either started before the hackathon was started, or they're like a rollover of a previous project. So we can sort that out in some messages. And just so people know, the bounties are also not eligible for Demo Day prizes, unless it was like the Gnosis bounty that's eligible. But the previously started projects like My Meta Profiles and DAO Minions and stuff like that are not eligible either. So with that, let me check the YouTube link. Okay, that looks good. Sweet. So the way we're going to do this is 5 minutes of presentation, slide share. If you have a deck, feel free to share your screen. The judges will then take 5 minutes to ask you some questions, get feedback. I will put y'all on a timer. And I think since we have not a huge amount of people here, we can go a little over if we want to. And then maybe like a wrap up kind of chat or discussion. And then the results will come out after the weekend, and we will announce those here in the DAO Hack Month server, do a little write-up article on all your projects, and send out the winnings and stuff like that. So that's the way it's going to go. Perfect. Let me jump into my sheet and see who we have up first. Okay, we've got Crypto Comics up first to present.
Woo!
Woohoo! Feel free to set up your screen share if you're going to do that. I'm going to set up a timer. Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. My screen.
I can see your screen. Can everyone else?
Crypto Comics, is it comic book shop cooperative?
Looks
Live and loaded.
You're locked and loaded.
Yes.
All right.
On the clock.
Cool. Okay, so Crypto Comics, DAOified comic book shop cooperative. Essentially, comic books are cool. DAOs are cool. Cooperatives are actually very much like DAOs, and they've been around quite a long time, and they're legally viable in most places, including probably Wyoming. So what we did is we put together a model for a legally compliant hybrid blockchain legal entity that can allow a group of people to come together, support a business or thing they love, and have that thing own property such as a comic book shop, but easily engage with it via DAO. So if we check it out, this overview kind of says why it's a big deal, because comic book shops are awesome, but Amazon's kind of eating their lunch, but they're still kind of a community hub for people. So we want to make sure that communities who really care about their comic book shop and want to cultivate that community can, collaborate together to do so. So the design goals are pretty simple here, right? We want to make sure that you can contribute. As you contribute, you get rewarded for doing so. You can contribute with capital by holding tokens or, providing labor, right? Which is important. That can allow all the things that the comic book shop needs to thrive to happen. We want to make sure incentives are aligned for all parties involved. So no one can capture the comic book shop or whatever, it's buy-in for the people. And we want to make sure it's legally compliant so that it can actually pay rent, right? Because we're going beyond the blockchain to like a real world application. So the outline, pretty simple, right? You got tokens, they give you membership. You got a rewards token that's like kind of like, cooperative dividends, like REI dividends, whatever. This describes how capital is allocated. Essentially, members vote on it. They can vote to fund projects. They can vote to pay rent. They can vote to distribute dividends. It's up to members. So it's all the standard things you know and love in a cooperative, but DAOified. So we explained the token model here. Then we have a demo. So we actually put together a DAO where you can check it out. It's pretty simple. If this thing ever loads, it's just a DAO. It's got a membership token, one person, one vote. And it's got a patronage token, which is represents your contributions. So Crypto Comics, woohoo, one person, that's me. And then you got patronage tokens, which represent how much you contributed. And these are, as many as you want. And then you can redeem them for the redemptions pool of whatever it is that you decided to put in the pile. So let's say over the year, we accumulate 100 ETH from our stuff. We put 10 ETH in the rewards pile. That people who contributed will get some of that proportional to their share. It's like a hybrid between a traditional cooperative and a Moloch DAO. So that's all great, but then what do you actually do? How do you launch this thing? So if you have these things, Ethereum wallet, a check, and some paperwork, you can actually deploy this thing. And you're going to deploy it not only on the Ethereum blockchain, but also in the state of Wyoming. And it turns out the process is very simple. You put together a contract for both, and you send a MetaMask transaction to deploy that contract on Ethereum in that database. And then you mail a check with a PDF printed out to the Wyoming Secretary of State, and they put that in their database. And that's how you deploy a legal entity to Wyoming. It's literally the same thing. So there's instructions on how to launch the DAO, instructions on how to launch the cooperative. If you need help, you can hit us up. But yeah, essentially this just outlines the whole process. And so if you want to create a DAOified cooperative that is legally viable in a physical jurisdiction, but is also has all the things we know and love about blockchains, such as redemptions, rage quit, etc., you can do it. So that's Crypto Comics.
Woohoo! Thank you, Barada. Well, you got an extra minute left, so we've got 6 minutes on the clock for question and answers from the judges.
Right.
Shoot it from the hip.
I got a quick
All
question.
right, I have a question. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
All right. So I'm super interested in the actual patronage part of this thing. Like we talk a lot about user ownership in the blockchain space, but it looks like you're actually doing the patronage part that a lot of people miss out on. So is that like a new component that you built for this, or are people already doing that with something else?
So yeah, the patronage component is very open-ended. A lot of different cooperatives, do it in different ways. The TLDR is that, like, if you buy stuff, then you get patronage. If you contribute, you get patronage, right? If you contribute in any way via capital labor. To represent that via DAO, it's super simple. We create a token. It says when you contribute, so let's say you spend $100, then you get 2 or 3 tokens, right? So it's just like you get points at REI. And then when you get those tokens at the end of the year, you can redeem them for dividends or whatnot. Super simple. So yeah, it's nothing new. Cooperatives have been doing this for quite a long time. The token economic mechanism is extraordinarily simple. It's just send people a token when they do stuff. And then it's up to the cooperative to define exactly how they want that to look. Because different cooperatives, like some might want a 10% dividend, some might want like a 1%, some might want to have a slightly different reward scheme. It's up to the cooperative to define that, but it's pretty simple on both the legal and technical side. Does that answer the question?
Sounds pretty cool. Yeah, it does.
Awesome.
I can jump in and ask a question. So first off, really cool. I really like the idea of kind of thinking about this in the context of cooperatives. I think that's kind of an underutilized business structure, honestly, for like a lot of different endeavors, like at least in the U.S., which is pretty dope. I'm kind of curious how you're thinking about this DAO/cooperative piece. Specific to I guess my question is why did you pick a comic shop? Is there a specific to like the comics market? Like there's a lot of weirdness in the comics market, right? Like there's the direct market, you have diamond distributions, you have three month pre-orders, etc. Are there any sort of nuances within that industry that make it especially well suited for a DAO? Or is this just kind of like a case study, and you think it'd be appropriate for all different types of businesses? Tell me how you're thinking about that.
Sure. So it's actually because Adam, who I worked with on this.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to that as well.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I literally have a local comic shop that's, or I should say, in broader context, I've moved to a bunch of different cities, and at every city I go and find a new local comic shop to get comics from. It's just, there's an aspect to it that's different from sort of just, you need to get the books from Amazon.
Totally.
And at every one, you see a different community, right? The one that I go to currently is not as much this way, but the one before that was really a community hub where people came together to play Magic the Gathering, D&D tournaments, all kinds of cool stuff, gameplay type things that happen there. And they're particularly struggling right now because in Los Angeles, at least, people can't go to the physical location in the same way.
Right.
At the same time, it struck me as a prime, just demographic, but also sort of context for the shift to community ownership. Comic book shops are big franchised business for a while there. And then as Amazon's eaten that lunch, it's slowly got more and more diffused to locally owned. Like the one that I go to now was most recently just bought by the manager. And the couple hundred people that hang out there all the time were like, "Yay, we're finally independent." So,
right.
It seems ripe for this kind of approach to, it starts to sound almost more like a grocery co-op or something, community-owned, public good. Pick your meme,
Totally. No, I totally understand that. We just, been working actually with my local comic shop on a couple of things to kind of get them through COVID. So a lot of sympathy here for kind of the pain points that they're feeling, right? You can't browse or anything like that, which really hurts their bottom line, and it's such a low margins game anyway. But I appreciate it. I'd love to see I'd love to understand sort of the business models that affect, it's a weird animal, right? As far as the business models there. And I think in general, one of the powerful points of DAOs and cooperatives specifically is that it enables like a lot of different types of businesses, more so than just like the sort of like the straight brick and mortar margin, like high margin type, like selling Patagonia jackets to tourists sort of thing that is sort of in my head as like the sort of the traditional brick and mortar place. So
Right.
appreciate the work that's been done here for sure.
Our 60-second time limit. Anyone else? Questions in the next 60 seconds?
Hey guys, Liz here. Yeah, really, really interesting concept. Thanks for
Final
presenting.
comment. Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I think Liz was saying something.
Liz was saying first, so we
Yeah.
gotta let Liz fire off. We can move it to the end.
Cool. So with this sort of like co-op / DAO model, like what do you think some of the risks might be, like outside from a legal perspective in terms of just how it's structured?
Well, there's tons of risks, mainly that no one shows up and buys the comics, right? But I don't know if that answers the question. Are you talking about like risks from like the legal side, or are you talking about like attacks where people might like take over the cooperative, or like what's the context there?
Yeah, I guess I'm more interested in the governance risk side of things.
Oh, yeah, it's a cooperative, one member, one vote. So you can't capture it because decisions are made by one person, one vote, and people have to be a person because it is a hybrid legal entity and a cooperative, right? So it's distributed amongst all the people who go to the comic book shop, and to become a member, you have to do that. So no one single party will be able to capture it unless they embark on some maniacal campaign to brainwash all the comic book people or whatever, or who knows. But like it's a cooperative, so it's really, really, really hard to capture. Like cooperatives were literally created because people didn't want to have their common goods and communities captured by special interests, so they formed together this one member, one vote situation. There was patronage built on top of that, so you can get rewarded based on your contributions, but the governance process is entirely democratic.
Got it.
Okay,
And
guys.
Oh, sorry.
That's it. That time's up on that one. Thank you so much, Crypto Comics. Up next, we have the DAF, Decentralized Autonomous Forum. You have...
Oh, that's me.
Yep.
Hello.
Clock. Let me know when you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. I'm trying to share my screen.
All right. Looks like there's... Yeah, looks like it's live.
Here are the slides, actually.
You are on the timer, 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. So the DAF, that's a decentralized autonomous forum. Today I will pitch the concept of it and prove why it's actually an engagement DAO. So the problem where I started is that actually no products have a great community. It's hard to build a cool community for the product around the team. And I believe that if a product has a strong community, the community will boost the adoption of it and help by producing some content. So the solution that I'm providing is community-driven forum. It contains many properties, like for example, on the forum, enthusiasts create articles. So writers create articles, they get some profit for it, they get fun, and they create educational content. So forums are like the place where you can find any information about the product. And the most important is that you don't feel alone on the forum. As for now, I see two problems in forums. So if a company has a forum, there usually are two problems. First of all, they don't demonstrate enough that they appreciate the work of creators. And usually the system is not fair. I mean, if, for example, a writer is paid $10 per article, it's not fair because this article can be useful or not useful. So my proposal is to make the rewards depending on reads and other KPIs. So, and I'm like proposing the decentralized and autonomous engine for your community space, for all the community spaces. This is DAF, Space Community Media Space Engine. So this is about 3 layers community. There is a board like the core team, product team, some group of creators who are creating content for readers. Here is a huge description of what each of them does. For example, core team just needs to create a content plan. Creators, writers, they need to create content and earn for each view of the article. And viewers, they just enjoy the product and content. So, and I created a concept. Actually, I even have a demo of it. And my concept uses some useful tools to create a simple UX for each group of the users. So here is the full schema. You can take a look after or ask some questions. Here is a demo, and I just want to clarify that I'm using two different chains, that's Ethereum and Waves, to achieve some cool advantages. Like I have free script invocations for users because it's possible on Waves, and I have a cooldown mechanics for the board team using Aragon. And just three key features of the full product. The first one that is everything is stored in smart contract. All the articles, all the views are storing in smart contract, so no way to cheat. So the second one is viewers don't authorize. So a very simple UX. They just use Google authorize button, and writers are earning 1 token for every viewer instantly. This is the main superpower, as I believe, and exactly this will help to achieve the mass adoption for the product. So we have created an engine for building communities. Where to grow it? Here we go to the roadmap. Right now, I'm working to using this soft for the first community, for the first product. And my goal is to attract 5 clients, 5 customers for this product till the end of the year. Then I'm going to create a white label for it and create scale it, right? And my final goal, my final mission is to make it as a national media space. So we can even have the DAF for the full country. I mean, we have a huge problem with freedom of speech, for example. And if we use forum for the full country, it's truly fair. Here is the description of how the speech. There are some solutions how to achieve it. For example, my submission is to create a sub-DAO that will be owned by all the users, and they will vote for articles. Yes, and the closest step is to create community for Certificado.1. This is the first customer. I've already talked to co-founder. I've found that they have more than 200 active users, so they can create content about certificates, blockchain, and all the stuff, how to connect it, for example.
Okay, Vlad, that is 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
I hope that's enough for you. I gave Crypto Comics 7 minutes for questions, so I'll also give it to you and the other projects as well, just to make it even. So judges, you have 7 minutes to ask questions about GAF.
Yep. Thank you for your attention. I'm glad to hear some questions. Here is the conclusion, by the way.
So I have a quick question. When you're saying per view, 1 token per view, are there any mechanisms in place to help from gaming that? Like like paying for traffic for ad rev is pretty standard. Is there anything that kind of stops that?
So I use smart contract for this. Actually, each I can show a demo. It's a really previous version.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
But there's a demo of how the smart contract works. As you see, here's a list of articles. Users authorize using login button, something like that. And after that, they can read an article using this button. And each time there is a smart contract. Oops, I'm sorry. Something is wrong.
No worries.
Oopsie. I will try to reload it. I use my that's funny. Okay, so the idea is every time the smart contract is being called when I put the read button, and for each unique reader, the writer gets a coin, viewer's coin. Okay.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to make it work, but I cannot.
It's the dangers of demoing live, man. It's no worries.
Oh yeah, look, here it is. That's funny. So here's console. When I put read, here's a transaction. You see? Like here's written that the function read article, and there's an argument with an here is ID of the reader, so we can store each reader's ID. That's how it works.
And that ID is based off of their G login.
Yeah, exactly. In Google, they have token ID, something like this, and I use it for SN ID. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. So if one user opens the article twice, the content creator will get only one coin. I will show you the smart contract actually. Oops. The smart contract is created in Waves protocol. So it's write smart contract language called write. Here it is. So in the data, we can see all the articles. So for example, here is the title, and here are watches, views.
Gotcha. Okay, that works for me.
Yep. And while Waves, the invocations can be free for users. As you have seen, I didn't need to authorize in MetaMask or something like this. I just authorized with Google.
All right, guys, we got 3 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. Any more questions from the judges?
Hey, Vlad, Juliana here. I go for the name of It's Encrypted. Excuse me, Ross.
Go for it. Yeah, please go ahead.
My question is regarding, you said you have like a layer of product team that creates the content plan and then the creators. Is there any sort of like verification that the content produced makes sense, or that the audience is actually getting engaged? Or just if you have like a lot of click farms being bots, do they count as regular readers? Is there any mechanism that you verify that it's good content and that the readers are real people?
Well, as I have seen, as I have shown, if you have one account, you cannot just click many times and get. You can only click once. And the idea was to make all the Google accounts like whitelists. Oh, I can show you the DAO actually. Yes, the first question was like how the DAO works. I can show it. Here it is. There are some voting for like publishing content. That was the first question as I get. One moment. It's Aragon-based DAO, and as you see, the board votes like, do we need a new article? Do we want to release it? So that's the process of publishing. And like about the farm, you cannot just farm it because I'm counting every view from the Google account. Okay.
Excellent. Very, very good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Ross, did you have a question before we wrap up?
No, it's more just a general, curiosity. So you seem to have, deployed smart contracts on Waves platform, and as somebody that also is, trying to think about different ways to develop cross chain and make it a bit easier to use DAOs and cheaper. How was your experience in sort of, juggling two different chains, or was that actually quite simple for you, and sort of tackling this problem?
Yeah, the main problem was like. It's actually an actual problem to make the token accessible from both protocols, from Ethereum and Base. So I need a gateway, and I didn't realize it. So for now, users, writers earn on Base chain, and it's hard to move the viewers' coins to the Ethereum. So that's the main problem. But all others were not so difficult. So as you see, for each article, I have an ID. Here it is, release article. Here's an ID. This ID is the same on Ethereum and on Waves. So in the web application, I just the article is valid if only it's stored on both chains. So it was not a big deal.
Cool. Okay.
All right, that is time for Decentralized Autonomous Forum. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your attention, for questions.
Awesome. Up next, we have D-Term. D-Term creator here. D-Term creator, you have 30 seconds to claim your spot, or else you move to the back of the line. All right, you're not here. Moving on, we have New Fork Order up next. Are you ready to present?
Yes. I am here. Hope you can hear me. I'm just clicking on the button, share my screen. I need to click on something, open system preferences, because I haven't done it in a long time. Okay, I need to click there, put my password. I'm on it. You see, I've never shared my screen using Discord, but hopefully it will work. Let me try. Go live.
Okay,
do you see my screen? Huh.
It looks like it worked.
Wow, magic.
All right, you've got 5 minutes on the clock, and go.
Hello, my name is Mars. I'm currently working on the BaseX Island. And BaseX Island is a very ambitious project. It is, I don't have all the money in place. However, it is completely within reason. Like us as the community, we can totally crowd fund it. However, there will be always a dilemma of who puts money first. By the way, I don't have any like a monitor feedback. So do you see a GitHub browser tab, or is my stream fixed to a single browser tab?
I see GitHub.
Yep, GitHub.
Okay, awesome. It's basically changing the game theory, because when you do the crowdfunding, there's absolutely no incentive to go first. So I just thought, okay, let's change the incentives so that when you put the money as the first contributor, you get much higher interest rate. And this is the main motivation. It was the overarching principle of this hack. This is the Medium post explaining the design principles, New Fork Order. You can read various features that are nice to have to be implemented, but of course, simplicity as the overarching principle. Then there is the GitHub README file that again explains the entire motivation. It explains why I do what I do, why it was created, what is the motivation, etc., etc. And there is also the contract deployed to Ropsten. So let me just try. I will click here, write, accrue the interest, the MetaMask window popping up. I will put the high gas prices and send a transaction. And hopefully within a couple of moments, this function to generate interest, it will generate the interest for the guys who invested first. Okay, I got a notification that it's been mined. So let's see what happens. And boom, two guys who put the money, it just generates interest for them. And also when you look in the tests folder, I was actually having some fun doing some manual math. Like this test on the line 1 to 9 is the most complicated. One guy depositing money using traditional bank account, another one depositing Ether, then calculating all the numbers, and then moving some time. Here is the like increase the time, the chainlink oracles, implement the actual price. So I had loads of fun doing it. However, my main focus remains on the island. I'm also focusing on this college because we can totally buy this college. It went viral on the crypto Twitter. I think it's a brilliant idea. And in between island, college, there are also other very interesting properties. I was just actually thinking about special economic zones or maybe something in Liberland. So I don't want to bore you to death. I'm actually hoping that someone will click on the README, that someone will click on this Medium article because it explains 100% the motivation. It explains what we do. And yeah, this is me, Mars from the Basics.
Awesome. So we've got 7 minutes on the clock for the judges. Feel free to ask questions.
Well, first off, those are some sick graphics, I'll say. But my question here might be, so you're using Oracle to confirm USD ETH prices? Is that how you're using it?
To confirm the USD ETH prices, I am using Chainlink oracles. It is using the this functionality of ref price video contracts.
Cool. I guess my other question to confirm my understanding of the project, you're basically building a sort of escrow purchase smart contract that allows people to have sort of preferential interest rates the earlier they join. Is that correct? I mean, I'll have to take a look at the smart contract. It looks really neat. But a takeaway? Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. So
yes,
I'll definitely take a
the right
look,
wording
and
is
there might be some interesting
preferential
legal angles, but I don't. Cool. Well, I'll leave it to the other judges.
I can tell you what was my main motivation because I just wanted to. I can shield the project all day, all night. However, just shilling is not very culturally acceptable. But when you do the project with this good intentions, when you actually want to build the audience, build the community, spread the word out, I think that this is a nice like two birds, one stone that you can combine shilling with actually developing some useful stuff. And whether we will succeed with this college in Vermont or our private island, I am quite flexible. I'm very happy to participate in all sorts of the crazy shit projects.
So when it comes to these interest rates, so people are putting in Ether and they're getting back the BaseX token, right?
Yeah.
So where does the interest rate actually come from? If it's two different currencies, how is it an interest rate?
Okay, I'll give an example. When you visit the island, we can assume like a rate of $100 per day on all inclusive, right? So when you are a visitor, you can go on booking.com or something, pay $100, simple transaction. However, if you are early investor, you receive interest rate in BaseX tokens, and then you can use these BaseX tokens to pay for the services. So yes, the interest rate is generated in BaseX tokens, and then these tokens are accepted on the island.
Okay, so is it like a fixed conversion rate of BaseX to like how much discount you're going to get on the island? Like $1 per BaseX token or something?
Currently, it is assumed $1 for BaseX token. However, in the future, I think there will be free market economy. I think that the novelty factor and some price attention, we can make it a very high demand. So I can envision that in the future, due to high demand and all the novelty factor, we can receive more demand to our facilities than we have actually places. So it is possible that the value of the token will increase. At the same time, currently just $1.
Sounds good.
And is the idea, Mars, that you basically use the BaseX token throughout, let's say, in time, throughout the different properties and throughout the different locations, or?
I think that would be pretty awesome because there are many innovative projects that are Europe-based, US-centric, some Caribbean, Mediterranean. We can totally build our own network, and I think this is with the benefit for everyone because I'm not in a competition in someone who is from the US. So longer term, yeah, we'll make it usable across the entire world.
Cool. Yeah, I think that would be a very interesting thing if you had all the different locations and then you could just, again, use the token to, whether it's a community around the college or whether it's the island or whether it's whatever, all of the different locations. That would be interesting. Yeah, cool. Awesome.
Hey, Mars.
And then,
sorry.
I
hey,
was
Mars.
just... Go, Liz. Go.
No, you go first. Finish up your question and I can ask mine.
I was basically going to say, is the idea also that you essentially then vote on what the next location might be and what... Is that something you had in mind as well? From the DAO perspective and the
yes. However, I see myself as a leader. Initially, the website was islanddao.org, but running every single decision through DAO was taking forever. Like, we need to improve the speed of a decision making in the DAO environment. And I've realized, okay, this is I currently claim most of the ownership. I still put everything is open source, everything is transparent, everything is on Discord, everything is by definition open source and anti-fragile, because actually I want everyone to clone this model because network effect will make it much more attractive. At the same time, currently it is me who is championing this vision and taking leadership. As soon as practically possible, I can dissolve myself and convert the ownership into DAO. And yeah, we can totally decide what is the next location. Probably it will be the element of a bargain. Like, oh, there is a new law in Vermont like this. You can build hybrid blockchain entities. Let's go to Vermont. And then someone says, oh, in the Maldives or Seychelles, they build a special economic zone. Let's go to Maldives. Like, if we remain lean, agile, we can.
Great. That's your time. Thank you so much. Awesome project. Really exciting stuff. Moving on to the next submission, we have the Lex Art DAO. Are you here to present?
Yes, sir. I'm right here. Let me share my screen.
Your stream. And just so everyone is aware, if there are questions you feel like asking directly, feel free to use the general discussion channel to ask questions to each of these projects or the founders. We're happy to have a side conversation going there while this goes as well. All right, looks like you are ready and streaming. You've got 5 minutes on the clock.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you guys for organizing and having me presenting Lex Art DAO to all of you guys. First and foremost, Lex Art DAO is a sub-DAO of Lex DAO. Lex DAO is, for those of you that might not know, a DAO that promotes legal engineering efforts. Here's the Twitter handle that you can all check out. So LexArt DAO, its goal, or it is essentially a community-governed Creative Commons, and its purpose is to defend, manage, analyze, and profit from the commons. So this is sort of born from just my exploration in the NFT markets. And currently in the NFT market, you can see, and this data is coming from nonfungible.com, which they do a very good job of documenting what's going on with the existing marketplace. And as you can see here, it's been trending upwards. And you don't see super rare on here because super rare actually deserves its own chart for showing how much growth it's got in the later half of last year. And so there's been a sort of a super growth of NFTs in the Ethereum world. And so thinking from that, this is kind of where LexArt DAO came about, in that, you know, it's taken on a different perspective compared to what some of these platforms are doing, in that rather than keeping things in a more central location, LexArt DAO would be a little bit more open. As I said before, you know, it's a community-governed Creative Commons, and what that means is we got to start building a commons first. And in order to do that, here are some steps that this DAO could try and achieve. And one of the things is that we would provide LexArt token factories for minting NFTs, and the realm or the breadth of NFT doesn't have to just stop at art. It could be anything. It could be music. It could be lab notes. In the case of pens and things like that. And so once members receive a factory, then members can commit to using these LexArt tokens on a recurring basis. And so through that, by minting each NFT, there's a minting fee that would go back to the DAO. And then this is something that will need a little bit more hashing out, which is members would also receive some sort of equivalent amount of gas for minting the NFTs in the DAO token. And then all NFTs that's been minted will contribute back to the commons. And then the DAO would then use these NFTs to engage in commercial activities. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could be done to bridge the Web 2 and the Web 3 world. And this is sort of an attempt to do something like that. And so this is sort of the DAO structure in terms of building a commons. But we like to also get a little deeper into building the token economics for each of the NFTs. So if you consider some the NFTs today, they are sort of just static tokens that store store art, store music, but it doesn't have any sort of underlying token economics. And so one of the things that have been explored is today, the platforms today, like Super Rare, Known Origin, and all these great platforms in terms of building up this huge community, is that they provide a flat patronage back to the artist. And so what that means is artists, when they do after they do a primary sale, the first collector, once they engage in a secondary sale, the artist would receive a 10% quote unquote royalties from the secondary sales. And this in turn would basically help the artist generate a certain amount of income, and that hopefully in the future, the market is big enough that the artist can essentially live on using in the Ethereum world. But to take this a little further, you know, we can explore certain other economics within for these tokens. One of the experiments that I've been doing is on a LexArt token for decaying patronage. So instead of just providing artists 10%, you could presumably also provide a decaying percentage to the collectors that have collected the art. And something like that has already been created, as you can see on the right-hand side, just to show you proof that you can see the royalties have been are decaying from 10%, down to 9%, all the way down to 0%.
That is our time on that, the presentation side. Thank you so much. We move into the question and answer side. And if there's more slides you want to share during question and answer and you have an opportunity to, you can go ahead and do that. But let's move into Q&A. 7 minutes on the clock. Go.
Hey, I didn't quite catch your name, but my name is Liz, and this is like a really, really cool idea and touches upon some like general questions I had around NFTs in the space. So I liked what you said about having to be able to have like Creative Commons. You have to like build up that repertoire first. And I know NFTs and as it pertains to art is quite new, but for art itself, it kind of makes sense, right? It's like as an artist, you typically are looking to sell your art, so you can like tokenize it. And I liked what you said about decaying patronage. But something I wanted to ask you about to delve into more is so I'm a musician, and so I've always been curious about how I could possibly, like add an NFT or crypto component to what it is that I do. But as a musician, unless you're a songwriter that's writing songs for someone else, you're not really looking to, like transfer ownership of your song. So how do you think about, this sort of token economic model as it pertains to music?
Yeah, so I started with art just because it's more static. And in the case of music, I think there's a lot of interesting problems that needs to be solved, at least in the traditional music industry. One of the ways that could be done is to essentially, instead of minting a song within an NFT, you could essentially mint the different tracks within that song into different NFTs, and using that as a mix and match way to promote your content. So that's definitely one way to do that. But of course, there's other token economics that can be done in the music sense. But again, right now, I think the focus is more so on just static art because it's easier to handle at this time. A lot of times with music, there's also the enforcement problem, because it's hard to detect who's been using your music and who's been quote unquote profiting off of using your music. And so there's still a lot of issues that needs to be done. I mean, even in the art sense, in an NFT, because it's only storing or referencing the art itself, anybody could, once you put it out into the world, anybody could really just download it and put it up in a different platform. And so I think we're just getting started. There's a lot of things that needs to be sort of looked at and provided solutions for. So this is really just the start to working toward that goal. Hopefully that answers your question. But music is such a difficult and complex topic that I think one of the reasons why the music industry hasn't moved into the blockchain world is precisely that, because they can't really figure out how to do that. And even with Ujo music, back in, I guess, the early days, it's still there's still a lot of issues surrounding like other things like user interfaces and things like that. So I think this is only just the beginning, but we'll get there.
Yeah, thanks so much. That makes a lot of sense. And good luck with this.
Thanks.
I have two quick questions real quick. One stupid. I want to make sure I'm understanding. So when you say contribute to the commons, I want to make sure you're saying, is that Creative Commons, or is that like the commons as in like the upkeep for this platform in order to like for artists to continue to mint? So like that's the first question. And then the second question is kind of more around like I guess like the volume of trading that you're seeing. So like when you're saying I really like the idea of the decay rate. It's really interesting, but I'm curious how often, whether you've seen evidence in the market already, or if you have kind of like a guesstimate, if it hasn't, what's the frequency of trades or resales, I guess? Are we expecting a more like traditional art market where it's like, oh yeah, like we're going to do these occasional art auctions, and that's kind of what we're seeing in the NFT space? Or are we seeing it at a much higher frequency because it's much more liquid asset? So those would be like my two questions around this.
For sure, yeah. So going to the first question, it goes into the Creative Commons, and because artists are minting, so I guess putting in sort of a legal perspective in that when artists would still hold the token, would have complete ownership of the tokens, it's essentially licensing it to the DAO for the DAO to profit off of using the token in commercial activities. And so artists themselves would still own the token 100%. It's only carving out a percentage of the licensing portion to the DAO to allow the DAO to do commercial activities. So on the second question, I personally have seen resale has been growing. There's nonfungible.com has done a decent amount of research in that area. Resale is definitely growing. Based on my personal experience, I've only seen it in the top artists, the art from the top artists. So like Hackathon, Cody, a lot of these sort of well-known artists in the Ethereum space, their art has been reselling at multiples. So I've seen like 2x, 3x, but it's very difficult to value that. And I'm not entirely sure how they value that. Like why do you put a 10 ETH amount on a certain NFT as opposed to like 5 ETH, right? It's so difficult, and most of it is really subjective. But the space is definitely growing, and I think one of the reasons one of the things that I'd like to explore is also just putting in these token economics within these NFTs to allow artists to mix and match depending on what they think is more suitable for their art. And so it's essentially LexArt DAO is essentially providing a bunch of smart contracts that allow artists to sort of take a look at it, and they can pick and choose which one they want to use to issue their NFTs with. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah, it does. I have a follow-up question, but I'm going to post it in the chat so that I'm not hogging time. Thank you.
Sure.
30 seconds left on the clock.
Okay, if I could just like quickly speed through the last portions.
Yep.
So another sort of form of token economics is this idea of anti-pump and dump. So I haven't seen this at all just yet in terms of the pumping and dumping art NFTs, but it's possible that in the future, if it becomes an investment vehicle, then the token itself could presumably have a floor when it detects a pump and dump. Another one is what an experiment done by Simon, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but he's put out this sort of idea in terms of, okay, putting out an art for rental purposes. And so allowing collectors to become stewards of art as opposed to owners of art. So there's a lot of interesting sort of implementations that can be done. And the purpose of this DAO is to sort of explore the infinite amount of opportunities to attach art and whatever NFTs with certain token economics to grow the pie together.
Okay, that is perfect time to wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent project. Up next on the docket, we have a transparent privacy solution. Are you here with your solution? And feel free to introduce yourselves, guys. Sorry, I'm being rude and not asking you names.
Hey. Yeah, so just getting the screen share up.
Sure, no worries. Let us know.
Okay. Do part of it, I guess. Okay. Yeah, it should be up.
Yeah, looks good. You have 5 minutes on the clock.
All right, so I'm presenting today for Team Foster, that's free and open source research, specifically on the topic of a transparent privacy solution. So the problem we're trying to solve is things like browsing surveillance, Twitter hacks, like the recent one, notice hacks, the recent TikTok and WeChat ban 2 days ago, which makes you wonder what's next, and Facebook censorship, like this over here. So these are annoyances, and we can just go on with our lives. But what if they're interfering with our lives? Well, in that case, for starters, it would be nice to know who's doing the interfering. Previous solutions for privacy have focused on privacy by hiding things and involved an ongoing arms race in hashing, salting, zero knowledge proofs, and encryption, which was touched upon by Nakamoto.com in an article entitled Cambrian Explosion of Crypto Proofs. There was quantum resistant cryptography, but there's also development of quantum decryptography, and some lessons learned from previous solutions are that, well, headers open up to risk of DDoS attacks. There's like all sorts of types of headers. And then neighbor discovery opens up to LAN attacks, which I call node attacks. And then some solutions defend against privacy attacks only in software, but not in like non-technology attacks. So in successfully dealing with the situation here, I actually received 2 bits of inspiration. So one was being able to see everything happening from my window. And another was a friend suggested to me the use of passive mechanisms. So I came up with this solution, which is, well, let people see whatever they want, but allow us to see who is seeing our data. And it consists of 1, transparency. So Andreas Antonopoulos mentioned surveilling the surveillors at the blockchain training conference, Let's Talk Bitcoin Live podcast recording. And this is also how quantum communication works, as in this MIT Technology Review article. So when you observe a qubit, then it changes the system, the qubit. So similarly, why not just make our communications tamper evident, and then we'd be able to publish who the eavesdroppers and interferers are. And 2, we could do passive workarounds. So you could test for eavesdropping and then distract them and switch to offline work and then come back when the coast is clear again. This has applications to all sorts of attacks on privacy, including IP addresses, wallet addresses, any sort of hacks like keystroke logging, SIM jacking, etc., and even voting. So you could allow only authorized vote counters to view only the vote results. And now how to implement this? Well, think of the public IP address as the address on the envelope, and the private IP address as the glue that seals the envelope, or the hand that opens the envelope. And then the postal service could be anything. But what would the envelope be, which is the tamper evident like communications? So the philosopher among our team came to the conclusion that it's going to require going beyond to a universal blockchain called Karma, and noticed that one can only have as much control over people as one can keep them in a state of fear and anxiety. And from a mathematical standpoint, the solution is to go from a zero-sum game, we all know how that works, and eventually everyone loses, to a mutual victory by changing the rules so that if you do your calling, you get 1 point. If you do things to other people, you get no points, and they either gain or lose points depending what you do. And whoever has the most points wins. And in this case, eventually everyone wins. And this is the case in the evolving consciousness aspect of our world. That's all.
Perfect. That's exactly 5 minutes. Nice work. We've got 7 minutes for questions. Opening the floor now.
So who would be the users and participants in this? Trying to kind of get like there's so much to read into things, like we've got so many links which I think we should dive into, but obviously we don't have the time right now. But tell me, who would use this? Like, what would be your users? Immediate
There's
users.
anyone who's online. So if they're
Okay.
like, making communications online, doing video chatting online, browsing online, I don't know, going on Twitter, Facebook, if they're running a node for like various blockchains or for a LAN network, yeah. Or voters, if they're voting online.
Okay. And would they communicate with each other? Where would this space be? They interact with each other. They.
Well, I mean, like online interactions, they're always happening.
Sure.
You mean with regards to like what, how to know who is possibly intercepting or interfering with communications?
Okay.
So then in that case, well, I think it shouldn't matter whether you're using like a browser or whether you're using a blockchain, whether you're using like, the mail delivery or whether you're using FedEx. There should be a way for you to, like basically, if a message gets intercepted, it should be visible. Like, for example, if someone were to try to view like people's mail or people's email, it should be the same. Like, the envelope is clearly broken or it's been replaced, but there's no like stamp or address.
Okay.
Hey there. Thanks for presenting. I have a quick question. So, a couple months ago, I, along with another one of my colleagues, we hosted this dinner after the Stanford Blockchain Conference and invited a bunch of computer science professors who were there. So like from all over the world. It was like we had a really engaging discussion. And one of the points which we touched upon was about the lack of viability for electronic voting, at this point in time. So, how do you see, like some of the issue? How would you like portray some of the issues that exist right now? And I think, I don't know if you live in the United States, but obviously it's a really big topic right now. It's should there be, is mail-in voting fair, and can it be tampered with, and so on and so forth. And just like how far are we, do you think, from electronic voting being something that's just...
At this point, I would not trust electronic voting. But COVID has demonstrated that mail-in voting can be tampered with in extreme cases like martial law and global pandemics. So, the Wisconsin primary was a whole bunch of voters sent in their votes late because they were under quarantine. And then for some reason, Wisconsin just decided to discard all of those votes rather than postpone. Let's see. Bernie Sanders wanted to postpone the primary so that, or some primary, yeah, he wanted to postpone the Wisconsin primary because people were under quarantine, and they were like, so do I like risk my life to go out and vote by mail or in person, or yeah. Actually, by mail it wouldn't. I think mail-in voting, well, like it worked for me. Mail-in voting still worked. But I just like, there's like, eventually people are going to find a way to attack the postal system.
Sorry, Vicky, was that the end of your response? I wasn't sure if you got cut off.
Yeah, that was the end.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, mail-in voting is a really interesting question as well. I used to live abroad, and that was like during Trump's, that was like in, when we're voting for the 2016 US presidential election. So I sent in my ballot, but I like was unsure as to if it ever like got received. I didn't get like a receipt of confirmation or anything like that, but yeah, really interesting stuff you're doing, and I think a lot of like it's very salient given our time. So Yeah, looking forward to see what comes out of this.
Perfect. Well, that's the time, and we have. Thank you so much for presenting. Up next, we have DAO Canvas. DAO Canvas, are you here to present?
What up? Hey.
There he is again. Perfect. Share your screen. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Cool. All right. Can you guys see the GitHub README?
Yes, sir. Looks clear.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So DAO Canvas, you guys might know it. It's a pretty cool thing. It's built off the business model Canvas. This was put together a while back. It's really great. It's like this PDF type situation. You can see there's like, stuff to fill out, and it's great and it's awesome. And if you print out the whole thing, it kind of looks like this. So that's great, except that it was built in an opinionated way around a specific DAO framework. So what I did is took all of the stuff in here and put it into a simple DAO canvas, which is a little higher level and is at the DAO design level. And the idea is that if you're going to launch a DAO, there's a lot of things to consider. Just like if you're launching a startup or forming an LLC, etc., there's just a checklist of 10 to 20 questions you're going to want to go through. So this just walks you through it pretty much. Just core stuff around what do you want to call it, what's it going to do, etc. How are you going to engage your community? How are you going to make decisions? Who's involved? Why do they care? And are you going to have to deal with capital allocation or anything like that, right? Just all the core basic stuff, just gives you a checklist for that. Just copy the doc. It's a HackMD here. Just grab it, fill it out yourself, and it can help you start to think through like how to DAO if you're thinking of launching your own DAO. So yeah, that's it. It's just super simple. It works. I've run through it with a few people, and it's just a great way to get started thinking through what you want to do with your DAO, and from there you can figure out kind of what framework to work with. So that's it.
Woohoo! All right, we'll open it up for questions.
Could you? I really like this idea. I'm a big fan of the Lean Canvas framework, so I'm excited to dig into this. Do you have almost like a forking, what's the biggest pain points that this solves whenever people go out to start a DAO without kind of considering these questions? Are there like kind of reoccurrent endpoints that you see that you feel like this framework is kind of guarding against or solving for?
Yep. So if you don't use something like this, what you're going to do is talk to 10 or 20 different people. You're going to have a bunch of chats. You're going to go through all of these questions. It's going to happen in conversations, community calls, etc. And all of that is going to be scattered across everywhere. And you're likely going to kind of spin in circles asking the same questions over and over and over. Having this canvas, it's just like a checklist of all the stuff you're going to need to ask anyways. And that way you can put all the stuff in one place. If you want to go through it, you can just go through it in 30 minutes. If you want to ask a few questions, write some stuff down, go away, come back to it, you can. But it's a checklist. It's just all the stuff you're going to have to think about all in one place. That makes it easy to kind of get all that data together before you launch your DAO.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you for this. It's really interesting. And would you make suggestions of frameworks to use, or I don't know, efficiency bots and things like that, like very streamlined elements that may help once you've decided how to launch it, where you're launching it for, and going through all of these questions? Like, I don't know. Would you make any recommendations or links, or depending
I mean,
on
I
what
would, like, if you filled out the DAO canvas and you came to me and said, here's what I want to do, I would then say, oh, you might want to look at this and this and this. But the DAO canvas is meant to be completely unopinionated, and it's like the first step. Just like, hey, you're going to have to think through these things. Start to think it through. Once you think this through, then you'll be able to find the right frameworks, tools, and mechanisms to help you achieve your goals. But first, get really clear about what you're doing and why, and then use the tools that help make that happen. First, a lot of people, they'll look at the tools first and then try to fit their idea into the tool, which generally doesn't work. And here, you first figure out what you're doing, then you can use that to go talk to people to find the tools you need.
Awesome. Yeah, because that would be really interesting afterwards to be able to, once you've done this, to then essentially go into a community where you can have those conversations and find those tools and make it, have that flow from, okay, now I know, let's go to the practical part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. I had a quick question, Beretta. So when I look at this, I see, kind of the raw type form, interview with a, prospective DAO deployer or client that could then actually, fill out maybe, Curb's cow template or, other sort of next step executable actions, even, deploying a DAO through Aragon or Moloch, or any of the other numerous frameworks. So are you kind of considering that? And if not, I definitely hope you do, or somebody else kind of runs with this DAO canvas, operating interview.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now the design space is so large that turning this into a specific recommendation would require some sort of thought and decision-making process.
Yeah, maybe you'd get this or something.
Yeah, it's rather complex. I mean, awesome. Let's see, awesome DAOs. If you look at this is an awesome DAOs page of all the DAO things. You can see there's all these design patterns, many governance mechanisms, lots of frameworks, all this stuff. I mean, to put all of this, legals, everything into a bot, you can. Like Goldman has a thing that helps people determine if they should do an M&A. And it's like a multi-step app that people put in all their data and it connects to a backend. It tells them what they should do for that M&A process. You could do the same thing for a DAO to help you decide what mechanisms. But frankly, the human aspect here is the most important, because a DAO is made up of people, and it's only as good as the people involved. And so by filling this out and starting to understand what you want to do, and then going out and talking to people in the DAO community who are actually using these things and starting to connect with them and understand how this works, you're going to get a 10x better DAO, and you're going to be able to start to build your community as well. So the idea is to have it be people focused versus automated. And this can help you start to think through what you want to do. So when you talk to people about your DAO, you know what that is.
Great. That's helpful. Other questions from the judges?
I would like to know, on the community aspect that you just mentioned, are there practical ways to reach other community builders or other DAOs? Because I think unopinionated can be good, but sometimes you also would like to learn from history, learn from the past, learn from others that had deployed. So just wondering, how can someone that just gets into this document finds someone else, like a real person to talk to?
That's a good point. I should probably add that to the end here to say, hey, if you've gotten through this, go talk to some people. On the Awesome DAOs list, there's a community section with some people you can talk to: Metacartel, DAO Rush Week, DAOs in the Wild, DAO Alliance, etc. Also, if you just go to any of the DAO frameworks and you just say, hey, look, I want to do this thing, here's what it looks like, they'll be able to point you in the right direction too. But yeah, I should totally add that here explicitly, saying, hey, once you're done with this, talk to these people or whatnot. That'd be great.
Thanks. Yes, I think it's really handy because, of course, there's a million things you can read and canvases and all that, but in the end, other communities' experience can also be very helpful. But really cool. Yeah. There was a DAO canvas before you built this one, right?
Yep, this builds directly off of the DAO canvas that Felipe put together for DAOstack. And it just takes out the DAOstack specific things, and it also puts it together into a form, whereas sometimes people got confused trying to figure out how they go through this thing. Here it's just top to bottom, super simple. So yeah, it builds off of this directly, and 80% of it is from this original work that Felipe did, which is super awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. It's many universal questions. A lot of these apply to, like I said, starting a startup, forming an LLC, etc. A lot of this is the same stuff you just think about when you're organizing humans to do a thing.
Woohoo! Perfect timing.
All right.
Thank you so much for presenting that. And up next, we have the Conditional Castle DAO. Are you here?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Feel free to
Not
say
bad.
if you're sharing slides.
Yeah, I don't have slides. I've got
Whatever
couple things though. So
sounds good.
Right. So yeah. So we took our previous project. We built a DAO called Castle DAO at ETH Denver. So what it was built to do was use a curve bonded token to buy into the DAO to signify ownership of the assets under management. And basically to give folks an easier way to get into income generating assets at a low cost, as well as give them governance over the assets through the DAO. So initially, we focused on a lot of the bonded token, the curve bonded token, and the DAO setup at ETH Denver, but there were a few additional things that we wanted to expand upon. So when we were at ETH Denver, basically we took the proof of weak hands 3D formula, forked it for built a DAO on DAO stack, and we simulated the tool, the bonding curve with the common stack. And we were inspired by the Realty project, but we wanted to take it and put it into a DAO. So essentially, we looked at the Gnosis conditional tokens for Fork the World, and we thought that we could add potentially Futurarchy into our operational decision making for the DAO, which was something that we hadn't focused on in the initial ETH Denver hack. So basically, there were several issues that were outstanding in our initial Castle DAO hack. So there was little use for the token besides buying and selling on the bonding curve. So by integrating a conditional token with the collateral being the housing token that you buy into through the curve, it both adds functionality to the token and ensures that participants in the governance are active holders of the housing token already. So it makes sure that the people operating in the conditional markets already have skin in the game on these assets and are owners of it. There was also little incentive for token holders to actually be active in the governance process at all. So the way that it was structured before, you could buy in through the bonded curve, and that would signify your ownership, partial ownership of the DAO. But there was no real reason for you to participate in that governance structure or the mechanisms that existed there for operational funds. So by adding the conditional tokens as a governance mechanism, token holders are then incentivized to participate in the governance process, because there's a potential payout based on the token that ends up being true. Then also there were no measures to ensure that token holders who did engage in governance processes were incentivized towards good governance outside of the overall value of the token. So by creating a conditional token, it allows governance participants to be both rewarded for engaging in good governance by choosing the optimal outcomes, and while also pruning the holdings of those who consistently perform poorly in the governance market. So essentially, if you're picking conditional options that are ruining the DAO, essentially, are making bad decisions for the assets under management, you would theoretically lose some of your tokens that you're staking against the conditional market. So we started to deploy an Aragon DAO on Rinkeby. We ended up doing a lot of development or locally, setting up a DAO and trying to integrate it with an Aragon app for the conditional market. That ended up taking a lot more time than we initially anticipated. And we actually considered forking Luzif's awesome implementation, but we thought that that might be a little bit of a underhanded move, considering we're in the same category in the hackathon. But yeah, basically, want to say great work for that implementation as an app. But yeah, so essentially we dug in a little more to the theory because we ran out of time hacking it together. So some of the questions that we were thinking of doing conditional questions on for engaging with operational DAO function. So for example, if we lower the rent of an unfilled suite by $100 a month, will the suite be filled with new tenants next month? Yes or no? So essentially we're taking a condition of we think that we can raise the rent by $100 a month. We currently have tenants, but if our governance decision is wrong and we don't have new tenants next month, they choose to move out because the $100 increase is too much, that's obviously a bad governance decision. If we do increase it by 100 a month and it is still filled with tenants, then it's a good governance decision. That token retains the collateral.
I'm gonna
again,
you there. That is the 5 minutes on the timer. You can definitely circle back if there are not tons of questions on those details, but let's go with the 7 minutes of questions starting now.
I have a quick question, and I think it's just like, I think it's interesting when you continue to sort of riff off of the projects from previous hackathons. I think as you like continue to struggle and work through these ideas, you end up learning a lot, right? So I'm kind of curious, like from your team's perspective, what are the biggest takeaways from like the project that you worked on in East Denver to this project, which is 6 months later, and we've had a complete paradigm shift as far as the rental market goes and COVID and everything. So I'm just kind of curious, like what are some high level sort of like big learnings that your team has done as you've continued to work through this market and this specific problem set?
Yeah, so I would say that I haven't paid as much attention to specific rental market conditions during COVID and that kind of thing, other than observing like the issues with like Airbnbs being empty and the idea that many of those rental places would have functionally been part of the rental market. But one of the big things that I guess we're learning from this hack, as opposed to what we were building at ETH Denver, was we really focused a lot more on incentivizing good governance in this, whereas before we were really designing kind of the baseline of how we get into it. How do we confirm that like people who are in the DAO have the ownership in the token, and how to structure kind of our votes. And it ended up being that we didn't really end up with a good framework for operational voting at the end of the original hackathon. So this one was really a lot more focused on how do we make sure that there's some sort of incentive for people to actually participate in the governance process, rather than just kind of sit on the sidelines, wait for more people to buy into the bonded curve, and then sell their token when they are able to make a profit on it. So how do we incentivize people to take part in those operational votes and make decisions that will benefit all the token holders through good governance? So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a long-winded and probably not a very specific answer, but we were more focused on just the concepts of how to functionally incentivize good governance within the DAO. And essentially we tried to fork a version of the conditional markets to implement futurarchy as a way of doing that.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I needed to. I guess I could talk a little bit about the Aragon structure that we chose on the deployment that we actually started to build out. So initially we were kind of choosing between a couple of the different structures, and we ended up going with the fundraising template, basically because we decided, since we were going with an Aragon DAO, and we had designed and tested out a lot of bonding curve stuff earlier, we just implement a simple Bancor curve for this, since it wasn't an aspect we were paying particular attention to this time. But the Aragon template adds another interesting functionality that we hadn't used before, which is the council voting system. So that was really interesting when we were trying to consider how we would wrap up conditional markets and give kind of an update on the condition without having a DAO that's decentralized and more trusted, because these are operational decisions that essentially the DAO is the one that lets you know what has happened, or what the conditions are, or when a market ends, that kind of thing. So we tried to structure it in a way that a DAO council vote could send a signal to the market to either end or to update the condition. So in that way, it's a little bit more centralized, but we thought that in this use case, the conditions are so specific and niche that it would be really difficult to like find any sort of decentralized DAO or design one that fed these sorts of conditions out. So one potential weakness, I guess, in terms of centralization, that we'd be happy to entertain other ideas of how we could functionally close those markets out and give an end condition. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I can pass off the mic to the next project if no one has any questions.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris. Awesome project. Appreciate you presenting here today.
Thanks so much.
We have a meta map submission from the Lone Ronin. Are you here?
Hey, how's it going? So I actually made a video. I'm not sure if I should just go over it. It's actually about 6 minutes, but here, you know what? Why don't I kind of like have that video up on a screen, and then I can kind of just go over what I was mentioning. Here, 1 second. I'll just put it up.
Yeah, whatever you think is best.
Yeah, just like no. Here, 1 second. Sorry. Okay, great. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. So, when I first started MetaMaps, actually, the intention was to basically build this mapping tool for metagame. However, when I started working on it, it kind of involved, like, I think the way I saw the project evolved, and it evolved into like a visual-based project management tool. So essentially what I'm trying, like essentially what I see happening here is that there's really two major elements that I see happening. Well, three major elements. First is, free-form visual-based project management tool. In a traditional Kanban board, you can only put you only have like these columns, and you put cards in these columns. It's very rigid. So the intention is to, like, you can put whatever you want on a map, and these things, it can be used to manage a project. So another thing on top of that is of course the DAO aspect of it, where you can even vote on like specific tasks. So there'd be kind of like a voting system, and that's something that would be very novel and potentially improve existing workflows or how people pretty much build their apps or their projects. Here, one sec here. Sorry, I'm just kind of going off my head. I did make a video, but
very different.
So like there are like already existing platforms that already do this. Monday.com, Trello, Asana. What I'm trying to do is kind of create a better version, which kind of reiterates the core motivation of why I'm working on this. Is one, the voting based project management through DAO based mechanics, and then obviously two, very freeform based project management tool where you can pretty much put anything you want on the page. So actually, I do have like a basic video where like I did make a demo, and you're able to add objects, you're able to add shapes and images. So this is all available on the metagame GitHub repo. So you're able to have images and objects linked to URLs and linked to like pop-ups. So yeah, I think that summarizes most of what I'm trying to do. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll move into the question and answer phase, and give you 7 minutes on the clock for that. Judges, feel free to pick it up with questions now.
Thank you for that. Very interesting and obviously useful tool. I'm interested in the voter element. So talk me through what's the role of the voting in this whole thing?
So let's say there's a design, like a web design agency, and they're building a new app. In this app, let's say they're unsure of what a certain feature should be. So obviously there's several developers or project managers on the team. They would essentially maybe have this task or a set of tasks, and they'd vote on which task should be done through that. And that's where kind of like the DAO mechanics would be very valuable in those kind of situations.
Okay. Do you feel that would potentially delay or, add a lot of time on top of a delivery, or how would you incentivize people to potentially, do it quickly? Because as we've seen, it's the actual participation is one of the biggest problems with DAOs.
Well, again, I think what would happen here is like these are people that are employed as either designer, developer, or project manager in an agency. So generally, I think that as a developer, let's say that a specific task was delegated and they felt that there's a lot of technical debt that could be introduced to a project, they might want to vote that maybe this feature shouldn't be in. So I think like when it comes to participation, when people are employed to work on a specific task, I think they're much more incentivized to vote like, hey, this is going to make my life a lot harder. I'm going to vote against that. Or, hey, I think that or as a graphic designer, I was like, hey, I think this feature would be really great for the app and it'd make it look really nice, and so on and so forth. So yeah. I think the dynamic of the DAO would be a little bit different, just given the nature of it being in I guess a corporate setting. I would say I think the intention here is to kind of bring DAOs to a corporate setting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. I was thinking of it in a completely decentralized, people participating in delivering something.
Well, this is the thing. I think because I think before I even try to pitch it to a web design agency, I do want to introduce it to the Gitcoin community and like we beta test the product. Like I definitely want to do that first. So it can absolutely be used in a decentralized setting, but like obviously the scenario and the context in that issue is a lot more different. And you're absolutely right that participation would be a lot more difficult, just given how the decentralized nature of cryptocurrency in general is.
Awesome. I would love to see it beta tested in one of the communities, and yeah, Gitcoin is probably a good one, or a guild. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's still early stages. I kind of like this originally I was just working on a bounty, but then I kind of evolved the project into an actual business, and I do intend on executing on this as like an actual business. So yeah.
Great. Awesome.
How much time do we have left? Because I have a question, but I don't want to ask something.
So go ahead.
Okay, cool. So I think a lot of times when we design project management tools, we're kind of scratching our own itch. We've all been on projects. We've all kind of seen these. We're trying to fix problems that we have witnessed ourselves. So I'm super curious, like kind of to dig a little bit deeper as far as like what the what the initial problem set was whenever you started building this out. Had you been working on DAOs and saw a need for better project management tooling? Did you feel like the previous on kind of more centralized projects, like you wanted to see more kind of like more give and take, like more collaborative decision making? Like I guess like at what end did you start building this from, and where do you see, I guess, like the biggest or most potential as far as like I think like fixing the biggest lift, I guess, with deploying a solution like this?
The biggest list? I mean, sorry.
I'm sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, man.
What was the last thing that you said? Sorry, could you say that again?
Just like the biggest, and maybe I misspoke. I think like instead of like the biggest I guess like benefit to like sort of deploying this kind of a system, either in like a decentralized project or like a more centralized project.
So I think the biggest incentives that come to this project are like really just like the voting based aspect of it. Like I think that having the flexibility where say this is a required task, and this is not something that can be voted on, but also giving developers or employees the flexibility to vote on specific things. I think that especially in this day and age where employment employee turnover is extremely high. Getting employees more engaged in projects would probably help. Would absolutely help with turnover rates, because again, like if you look at the average developer, they're normally staying at a company for a year max, or even less, and any sort of mechanism to help improve engagement, improve communication between fellow colleagues, that's a huge bonus, and then obviously that that improves employee turnover. So that's like one thing. There's a lot of other things, like again obviously the logistics of voting that helps determine how projects are executed on. And then as someone who has like worked in both startups and on a larger corporation setting, I can confidently say that like the number one issue when it comes like as an employee is engagement in the project, and kind of like eventually losing interest in like working in that workplace setting, and yeah, eventually you just quit. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
No, that makes sense. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
I think I should involve the pitch because that was a really good question to ask. I feel like that should be really important to discuss, like especially if I were to pitch it to a company, because like I said, number one issue that pretty much every employer has is employee turnover, and improving engagement with your employees is like a huge benefit. And then on top of that, this style of task delegation also augments how projects are executed as well too.
Perfect. Well, with that, we will call to a halt on this one. Thank you so much for presenting. And we have one project left to go. That brings us to the Web3 journey. Are you here?
Web3 journey.
There we go.
Yep.
Set up your screen.
Well, let me share my screen.
Sounds good.
Yep. Oop. Here it is. Yep, that's me again, but with another project.
Sounds good. Fire away. 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, thank you. So that's a Web3 journey. I created a map for the knowledge about Web 3.0. And for this, I've determined 4 roles of users who actually are trying to use Web 3.0. That's, first of all, investors, traders, developers, and entrepreneurs, businessmen. All of them have different ways to dive deep into Web3, and that's why I decided to make 4 different roles. And all the 4 roles are going to different goals, to different congratulations. As you see, each road has a result. I will show the full road later, the full map later, but I would like to underline a problem that I've met. The main problem is that it's really hard to make only one road for each user. For example, the simplest case, there was a step like create a wallet, you need your account, something like that. I've tried to find one page with all the information about the wallets, and the maximum amount of wallets that I found, a page about Ethereum wallets, but that doesn't conclude, for example, Fortnite, an awesome project. So it's hard to find only one way. That's why my proposal and my global vision create one introduction for everyone, for example, for all the investors, explain the differences between protocols, and then provide a tree for the full protocol. That's a global vision. That's what I'm thinking to do later, like what to do next. And for now, I have Waze protocol. As you see, I am most active, so that's why I started with it. And as you see, it's easier to build a more detailed map for one protocol and cover all of the things that are inside. So here are the links. Let me show something for you. For example, Web3 map. Oops, that's another one. Oh, that are the same links. Sorry, I will find it here. Web3 journey, it's here. So I will show just one way. For example, you're a developer, you join this tree, and you see that you need to start playing around basic, and you go to ATH build, had an awesome workshop about it. So it's a great starting point. After that, for example, you understand what's blockchain, what's transaction. You go to creating the apps, starting from understanding the smart contract using OpenZeppelin. Then you explore on DevTools, learn to build UI, and actually you finish with this app on DappRadar. And right now you're like a Web3 developer, and you've done the simplest path to the success. You have completed your journey. And I have paths like this for each role of the users. So that's actually my work. I will be glad to answer any questions and follow my Twitter.
Perfect. Let's open it up to questions from the judges now.
Yep, it was pretty quick. I guess it's useful.
Hey there, it's Liz again. So thank you for so I really like the way that you have separated this out into these different like personas, kind of like what you would do in like on a product team or in marketing and so on. So in terms of like mapping out the various stages of the journey, like who do you hope to like help with this information, or what do you hope that this mapping will serve for the ecosystem?
Yep, it's just a real case. So when I started to Web 3.0, I started a year ago. I've tried to start using blockchain. I was like thinking about, I have heard something about cryptocurrencies, but what can I do actually? And if I had this one, like with all the steps, I can take a look and understand that I'm a developer. And this journey will help me from the beginning to get some result. So actually this map is the first tool to use for beginners, for newbies.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I think this is really great. Obviously, for each of these different categories, I know that this is I know that this is a hackathon, but I could see like each particular vertical, like, having its own like few paths, right? Like as a trader, there are many different kinds of people that call themselves that, from people who are like literally running crypto funds to people who are just like really learning about the space and dabbling. A couple of personas that I thought of that might be, I don't know, like if you want to like take this further or what, but a couple of personas that came to mind that I think what might be nice to have on the map as well are enterprises. A lot of them are interested in POCs, and governments. Like for example, I know Consensus is working with the UAE, alongside other use cases, and nonprofits as well. And I mention those just because I feel like the journey for them is maybe not like as well defined. As a developer, I agree. It's not very clear. Like, when you're new to crypto, it's not very clear where to start. But I will say that resources for developers, I would say, are pretty abundant. And if you want to learn about trading or DeFi or whatever, there's definitely a lot of material on the internet. Not all of it is good, but there's definitely a lot of resources. But yeah, for some of these other use cases that are just burgeoning, I feel like there would be a lot of value add to define that a bit more. And yeah, I mean, just my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback. Yeah, actually the goal was to make a structure for all the information. And thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it. And make paths for governance and enterprises and non-profit orgs. It will be cool. Yep, I agree.
Cool.
That's why I like this type of events, to collect all the opinions.
Sure. Yeah, but honestly, this is really fantastic, because I think that one of the barriers to adoption in the space is really education. And even for people who are already within the crypto space, I do feel like that it can be really daunting. A lot of things are changing all of the time. Like people I would say a lot of people are like afraid to look stupid and ask questions. And I think having a resource like this kind of opens up the conversation a bit more. So thanks for putting this together. This is really great.
Yep. It's available in the repository. So I guess there will be a stream. So if anyone, you can see the full picture here, repo. Thank you. So, any questions else?
Yeah, this is awesome. A lot of people know how obsessed I am with the education and the flows and the guiding people through some sense of a path and getting them from an A to B to C to a D point. One of the things that might be interesting as well is thinking about potentially introducing either things like an NFT or progress, markers that you can essentially incentivize people or to continue that journey, right? So once they get themselves to a certain point, then they can do more by getting an intermediate and to an advanced stage. And so that, again, based on what taking what Liz said into account as well, then you can really play with pulling different projects in and really kind of starting to flesh out those opportunities to gain a certain education. Like I'm thinking even a Web3 design flow here, right? So like with Zach, something that you could evolve into being and having, let's say, an accreditation of I don't know, Web3 design, or like, you know, getting to a certain level, which might then put you in a good position to go and work for some of the projects or participate in some of the DAOs like Raid Guild and so on. So really thinking of it as a really interesting path into then work and ability to earn and ability to potentially continue updating the maps, right? Once you get to a certain level of knowledge, maybe you can contribute to it and make sure that it's up to date and make sure that it, you know, features anything new that might be valuable and so on.
Yeah. So first, I agree that there need to be a continuation, like how you can earn or contribute, right? Contribution is probably the best way to continue it. And I like your idea that even someone could contribute to it, right? So yeah. So I need to think about how to make and is it used? Maybe it will be DAO, you know, to the map. DAO for GAO. That's cool. Yeah. Thank you for the
So
idea.
yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there. So
yeah, for sure, I will work on it, and I guess try to attract some enthusiasts to, you know, add something to it. It will be cool.
Feel free to ping me in Discord if you want to chat more and bounce some ideas. Yeah, great work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome work. Thank you for the presentation. And we actually have one more project who evaded my extensive list. Madam Collins, you are up next. Is you, Max? Feel free to set up your screen share. Or just generally let me know that you are here.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't have a mic on my computer, so I can't screen share. So I'll send a few slides to the general channel, okay? General discussion. So my proposal, thanks for having me. I was looking into guilds for metagame, and Hamad gave me an idea to use Discord as a source of truth. So looking at other issues on the Fork the War bounties on GitHub, there were two issues, one to show open votings and one to vote on paid roles for guild members. So I tried to solve both issues with basically a bot structure, right? You enter interface, you invite CommonBot to your Discord, and it uses CommonBot define roles to define who are voting members and who are paid members. And through a simple signing up onboarding through the bot, you can then inside Discord, inside each DAO, each guild, each organization, you can use only the bot to vote and view open votings and stuff. So it's basically very concept level, not programmed anything, but that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Okay, that was fast. We have some time for questions and from the judges. Open the floor. If you guys need a little bit more explanation, please feel free to dig in and get that from Max.
Thank you for that, Max. Oh, I have a really quick one. how is this? It's pretty similar to the abridged bot that they have in Telegram, right? Have you looked at that at all?
No, I have not. I have not, but I will look.
You should
A bridge
totally.
bot.
Yeah, so they have a voting bot for Telegram, and it's pretty much the same kind of idea that, again, to try to make participation a little bit smoother and quicker and all of the effective, nice things. They essentially, you can vote through Telegram, and it's looking at this, and it's kind of it's that, but for Discord, which is great. But you could have a chat to them and see, you know, some of the things that they're thinking about, or you know, what their experience has been of doing it for Telegram and so on. But yeah, I think all of these tools are much needed to make sure that things are happening in a lot, you know, smoother and much quicker and much more effective. It's great to see.
All right. Thanks very much for your feedback. I will look into Bridged.
I'll send you the link to their Twitter or the handles of James and James.
Hey, it's Liz. Thanks for presenting. So I had a question around kind of like the use of like the use cases for this. So do you see this as like a I guess an interface for decentralized crypto voting, like within a DAO? Like you'd have like there'd be a bot in Telegram or something like that, where you could facilitate the vote instead of going to Pokemall.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea was not to have users to go on to each DAO site or whatever web browser interface to vote. Instead of that, inside the actual Discord of the DAO they're participating in, the vote can alert them for open, like for new members, for paid roles, for and you can really expand it to anything, right? You could expand it to how much is the wage of each role. You could expand it to all kinds of voting. So it's basically to think about a Discord interface for members to interact with the DAO.
I see. And how does the crypto like token component work with that?
Yeah, a disclaimer, I'm not a coder, so I really don't know in what ways you could try to solve that structure. Yeah, but I see so many people using Discord, like on pretty much all DAOs using bots. So I imagine there was some feasible way, but maybe there's not.
Yeah, I know something that I thought was super cool is that even for this Discord server, you know, there's like this judges channel that I was invited to, and yeah, there was like some token I had to hold to be part of it. So I thought that was like super cool. But yeah, I was just wondering. I totally agree with you though. I find that crypto governance as it is very fragmented. And I kind of wish there was like one place, like in one interface in which I could see everything and you know, like make votes in a more like integrated way. But yeah, this is really great. Thanks for putting this together.
Thank you. I sent a very crude wireframe. You could have a very simple web interface to show like all open petitions and filter by DAO or by type or role or whatever. But the idea will be to focus on how I called it a commons bot and the meta commons, how a commons bot could solve your voting and participation needs.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely think that this is hitting at a pain point, which is, you know, something that's really important when you're thinking about a hackathon project or even something beyond that. So yeah, thanks again for presenting.
Any more final
Thanks
questions?
so much. Okay.
All right, excellent. Well, that brings it to the end of our submissions for the Fork the World. Thanks so much for coming out. We do have a couple more projects who wanted to present. Previous built work. And so we're going to move into that section. But as far as this goes, thanks for showing up and thanks for all the hard work on the hackathon to all of you hackers. So up next, we'll hear from Upala Protocol. Are you here, Peter?
Yeah, hi.
Excellent. So yeah, feel free to take it away if you want to share your screen or some slides.
Sure. Thank you very much for the chance to present.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great.
So
That was really great for clarifying ideas too, developing them.
Yeah, feel free if you want to continue discussions in general discussion channel or ask questions to the judge.
Yeah, thanks to everyone. I know that a lot of hard work went into this, and I know it's like a weekend as well, but really, really cool, honestly, to see all of the stuff that's happening in the space, and particularly with DAOs, which are not like yet super, super mainstream. So yeah, thanks for all of them.
All right, Peter, you're set up. Feel free to take it.
Okay. So my name is Peter. I represent Upala, an anti-Sybil system for the apps and the decentralized identity of the future. Can you see the slide, by the way?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Great. So the main problem is that today there is no reliable way to tell humans apart from bots, and neither there is on the traditional web. And in Upala, we believe that over 1 billion people without any ID is a part of the same unique human problem. Existing solutions out there measure the probability of personhood in percents. In Upala, account score represents how much it would cost to forge this account, and we have dollars instead of percents. So let's see how it works. The first concept is a group. Users join a group, they put their deposits in a pool, and the group assigns scores to all of its users. Notice that the score is higher than the deposit. And this is where the second concept comes in, explosive bots protocol. It ensures that anyone can delete their ID at any time and grab an amount of money corresponding to their score. Here, a malicious user is able to get $10 from the pool, and sure enough, other members will feel betrayed and they will not let this person in again. The third concept is stacking. The same way users join groups, groups gather into hierarchies. Superior groups may require deposits from its subgroups, and in turn add extra scores to their users. The same scores will be paid as a reward to an exploding attacker. Groups at the top may acquire large audiences this way, and they may then charge the apps for providing user scores to them. Or they may earn interest on the pools, on their huge pools. The last concept is paths. Both an attacker or a good user need a membership path through the group hierarchy to prove their scores. These four concepts incentivize groups to gather large, low explosion risk audiences, and users are incentivized to get the highest scores for the lowest investment of money or reputation. And the market, similar to insurance, emerges, but instead of trading coverage for premium, in Upala, scores are traded for deposits. The user score then roughly corresponds to the amount of efforts needed to acquire such a score or to the price of forgery. And it is a very reliable metrics for the apps to assess human uniqueness with. Upala is a protocol. A variety of identity systems can be built with it, like the one based on friendship or on DAO membership, or it can even wrap over multiple identity systems and communities, and enabling scores that are higher than the black market cost of a state ID. So it has a potential to become a substitute for that. And so this is our goal. But for now, we made this minimal viable anti-Sybil system. The top group is the Blade Runner group, Upala group. The other groups are entry tests that auto-assign scores to members of existing DAOs. And Aragon-based DAO can change the scores that this group assigns and add other groups with other entry conditions. So let's see how it works. Okay, first we register an ID. Then we need to join a group. Let's say we are a member of MetaCartel, so we can join this group with no problem. We joined a MetaCartel, and now the Blade Runner gives us a score of 20 DAI. So let's change this score by the DAO. So now this group assigns $30 to everyone underneath it. So let's see, let's reload and see it. So now our score is 30 DAI. Notice the balance here at the Blade Runner. It's 49.80. We're now gonna explode and grab some of it. We will grab out $30 from it. Okay, now we have no ID. Let's register a new one, an empty one. We have a blank ID. We cannot now we cannot join any groups because they know we are exploded. But we can see at least a balance. Now you see it decreased by $30. So we stole $30 from everyone's pool, and they know we are malicious. So that's how it works. Thank you very much. Would love to hear your questions.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for presenting. We can open up the floor for questions or comments from people.
Hey, Peter, this is Neron. I really love this model. I think it's really interesting. It reminds me of rotating credit systems or ROSCAs, like where communities are tied together based on the fact that they all have the shared debt that one member can pull from every month or whatever, and you want to keep paying because your community is going to hate you if you just stop paying. So building an identity system on a similar incentive makes a lot of sense to me. For the score, have you thought about making the score some sort of proportion, some sort of ratio of what you can withdraw to what you put in? Because if your score is 30 DAI, but you also put in 30 DAI, isn't that providing less information than letting people know how much you can actually steal from the other members?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hi, by the way, Niran, glad to hear you. In Upala, there is every group can decide on the mechanism and of the user entry, and they can choose any politics and any deposits and any scores. So this is not a part of Upala protocol. Right here we are using a scheme where user is required to place only $1, and we assign him or her a score of $30. So this is the a scheme for MVP, but this DAO may decide on a different scheme, maybe the one that you proposed, where the score will be dependent on the deposit amount. So it's totally arbitrary. Well,
makes sense. This looks really interesting.
Thank you.
Is there a way to make everything verifiable on the blockchain?
Yeah, sure. It's everything is on the blockchain. It runs, Upala runs on smart contracts, so it's everything. That's the purpose. That's the main goal for Upala is to allow the apps allow users proves to the apps their scores on blockchain. So yeah.
Great. And like the changing of the scores too?
Yeah, sure. It's every action requires a transaction. So if this DAO decides to change score in the if the Aragon based DAO decides to change score in Blade Runner group, it needs to issue a transaction, and everything will be transparent to anybody.
Cool. So I'm starting to see possibilities for this, like, for general use cases.
Yeah, the general use cases. Is it a question?
Oh no, not a question.
Okay. So yeah, in general, as an MVP, I'm planning to maybe propose it to Gitcoin to assess their users. So yeah, that's one of the use cases.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for presenting Upala. Great project, and one of the finalists for the Hack for Freedom, which is also. We have. Do we have another presenter? Peeth, was there something that was going to go after this? Peeth.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then that concludes our session for today. And thank you so much, everyone who came, who contributed, and to all the judges for coming and giving your Saturdays. Go and do something fun and relaxing now. And then hackers, hang tight. Next week, we will be announcing, barring no catastrophic blockages, the winners in each categories and the funds that will be dispersed. So yeah, that concludes. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, judges.
Thank
you,
you,
Yeller, for
guys.
Thanks, Taylor, for organizing. Thanks for everyone who participated.
Yes. Great work, everyone.
Yeah, this made my Saturday. I don't have anything else going on, so yeah.
Relax.
Good to life.
No.
Okay, everyone. Yeah, thanks so much. Bye.
Great
Guys.
month. Great month. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.